What if I told you that a single nightmare changed the fate of the entire galaxy? In the Star Wars universe, Anakin Skywalker's prophetic visions of Padmé's death during childbirth became the catalyst for his transformation into Darth Vader. These dreams, filled with terror and desperation, drove him straight into Palpatine's manipulative grasp. But what if those visions never came? What if Anakin slept peacefully through Padmé's pregnancy, unburdened by the weight of a terrible future he believed he had to prevent? Today we're diving deep into one of the most pivotal what-if scenarios in Star Wars lore. We'll explore how the absence of these prophetic nightmares could have completely rewritten the saga we know and love. Would the Republic have survived? Could Anakin have remained a Jedi? And perhaps most intriguingly, would the galaxy have been better off? Or would darkness have found another way to rise? The ripple effects of this single change are staggering, touching everything from the Clone Wars conclusion to the very existence of Luke and Leia as we know them. So buckle up as we journey into an alternate timeline where fear didn't drive destiny, and discover how different choices might have led to a completely different galaxy far, far away. To understand the magnitude of this change, we need to first examine just how crucial those visions were in Anakin's fall. In our timeline, these nightmares began plaguing Anakin early in Padmé's pregnancy. They weren't just ordinary bad dreams. They were vivid, terrifying glimpses of a future where the woman he loved died in childbirth, leaving him alone and broken. These visions felt absolutely real to Anakin, carrying all the weight and clarity that Force visions typically possess. The psychological impact on Anakin was devastating. Here was a young man who had already lost his mother, Shmi, in a traumatic and violent way. The thought of losing Padmé, the person who represented hope, love, and everything good in his life, was unbearable. These visions transformed Anakin from a confident, if somewhat arrogant, Jedi Knight into a desperate, fearful man willing to do anything to prevent this future from coming to pass. It's important to understand that Anakin's relationship with loss was already complicated. His inability to save his mother had left deep psychological scars, creating an almost pathological need to control outcomes and prevent the deaths of those he loved. The visions of Padmé's death didn't create this flaw in Anakin's character, but they certainly exploited it, turning a manageable character weakness into an all-consuming obsession. This obsession made Anakin incredibly vulnerable to manipulation. Palpatine, who had been grooming Anakin for years, seized upon this desperation masterfully. The Chancellor presented himself as the only person who could help Anakin gain the power necessary to save Padmé. He dangled the promise of dark side knowledge, particularly the ability to prevent death, like a carrot before a starving man. But what if none of this happened? What if Anakin's nights were filled with peaceful sleep instead of prophetic nightmares? The implications are enormous, and they start with Anakin's mental state during one of the most crucial periods of galactic history. In our alternate timeline, Anakin approaches Padmé's pregnancy with joy rather than dread. Without the constant fear gnawing at him, he's able to be the supportive partner that Padmé needs during this time. Their relationship, while still complicated by the secrecy required due to Jedi rules, is much healthier and more stable. This emotional stability has immediate effects on Anakin's performance as a Jedi. He's more focused during missions, less prone to the angry outbursts that had been becoming increasingly common, and generally more in tune with the light side of the Force. His fellow Jedi notice the change, though they attribute it to maturity rather than the absence of terrorizing visions. Obi-Wan, in particular, is relieved to see his former Padawan seemingly finding balance. Their relationship, which had been strained by Anakin's growing darkness and defiance, begins to heal. Without the constant undercurrent of fear and desperation, Anakin is more receptive to Obi-Wan's guidance and wisdom. The two begin to work together more effectively, their partnership reaching new heights during the final stages of the Clone Wars. The effects extend to Anakin's relationship with the Jedi Council as well. While he still struggles with some of their decisions and philosophies, his criticism comes from a place of thoughtful disagreement rather than barely controlled anger. This makes the Council more willing to listen to his perspectives, even if they don't always agree with them. Most importantly, Anakin's relationship with Chancellor Palpatine begins to change. Without desperation driving him to seek forbidden knowledge and power, Anakin becomes less susceptible to the Chancellor's subtle manipulations. He still enjoys their conversations and values Palpatine's counsel, but the dynamic shifts from desperate student seeking salvation to confident young man who appreciates an older mentor's wisdom. This change doesn't go unnoticed by Palpatine. The Sith Lord had been carefully cultivating Anakin's fears and insecurities for years, using them as tools to slowly corrupt him. Without the visions providing a perfect catalyst, Palpatine finds himself having to completely reassess his approach to turning Anakin Skywalker. The Chancellor's first instinct is to be patient. After all, he's been playing the long game for decades. Perhaps Anakin will develop other fears or insecurities that can be exploited. Palpatine begins probing more subtly, trying to find new angles of attack. He attempts to sow doubt about the Jedi Council's decisions, to highlight their perceived hypocrisies, and to emphasize Anakin's unique power and potential. However, Anakin's responses are markedly different. Instead of the eager agreement and growing resentment that Palpatine had come to expect, Anakin often pushes back thoughtfully. He acknowledges the Council's flaws while still defending their overall mission and methods. He shows less interest in power for its own sake and more commitment to using his abilities in service of others. This forces Palpatine to take more desperate measures. He begins to hint more directly about the dark side's capabilities, testing Anakin's reactions. He shares more explicit criticism of the Jedi, hoping to create cracks in Anakin's loyalty that can be widened over time. But without the foundation of fear and desperation that had made Anakin so vulnerable, these attempts largely fall flat. As the Clone Wars progress toward their climax, Palpatine realizes that his original plan may no longer be viable. Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one he had counted on to become his Sith apprentice, seems to be slipping away from his influence rather than falling deeper under his control. Meanwhile, the broader war continues to unfold. The Clone Wars are still reaching their predetermined conclusion, as Palpatine had orchestrated events to ensure his rise to power regardless of Anakin's specific role. However, the absence of Anakin as a dark side ally begins to create complications in the Sith Lord's plans. The Jedi, with Anakin fighting at full capacity and not distracted by personal fears, are performing better than expected in the war's final campaigns. Their victories are more decisive, their losses less severe, and their morale significantly higher. This success makes it more difficult for Palpatine to justify the emergency powers he's been accumulating. Though the general public remains largely unaware of these subtle shifts, Anakin's improved state also affects his relationships with the clone troopers under his command. Without the dark undertones that had begun to color his leadership style, his clones remain deeply loyal and motivated. This loyalty will prove crucial in the events to come, as it makes them more likely to question orders that seem to contradict their general's character and values. As events move toward the fateful confrontation that would determine the galaxy's future, we see a very different Anakin Skywalker preparing for what he believes will be the war's end. He's optimistic about the future, excited about becoming a father, and committed to helping build a better galaxy once peace is restored. He has no idea that his mentor and friend, Chancellor Palpatine, is actually the Sith Lord orchestrating the conflict from both sides. The revelation of Palpatine's true identity becomes the crucial turning point in our alternate timeline. In the original story, this revelation came at a moment when Anakin was already desperate for the dark side power that Palpatine promised. In our timeline, it comes to an Anakin who is psychologically stable, committed to the Jedi path, and not driven by fear of loss. The moment arrives during what appears to be a routine meeting. Palpatine, realizing that his subtle approach has failed and time is running out, decides to reveal himself directly to Anakin. Perhaps he hopes that their personal relationship and Anakin's respect for him will be enough to secure his loyalty even without the leverage of desperation. The scene unfolds differently than in our timeline. When Palpatine reveals that he is Darth Sidious, Anakin's reaction is one of shock and betrayal rather than conflicted desperation. There's no part of him that sees this as an opportunity to gain the power he needs to save Padmé, because he doesn't believe Padmé needs saving. Instead, he sees it purely as a betrayal by someone he trusted and a revelation of the enemy that the Jedi have been seeking. Anakin's response is immediate and uncompromising. He ignites his lightsaber and demands that Palpatine surrender. There's no internal conflict, no wavering between light and dark. This is a Jedi confronting a Sith Lord, and Anakin's path is clear. Palpatine, recognizing that his carefully laid plans are crumbling, makes one last desperate attempt to turn Anakin. He reveals his knowledge of Anakin and Padmé's secret marriage, threatening to expose it to the Jedi Council. He promises power, position, and the ability to reshape the galaxy according to Anakin's vision. Most crucially, he offers the power to prevent death, to ensure that no one Anakin loves will ever be lost. But without the driving fear of Padmé's death, these offers ring hollow. Anakin acknowledges that losing Padmé would be devastating, but he's not consumed by terror of this possibility. He recognizes Palpatine's offers as the manipulations they are, and he rejects them entirely. The confrontation escalates into a lightsaber duel. But this Anakin is not the conflicted, emotionally compromised fighter who would later struggle against Obi-Wan on Mustafar. This is Anakin Skywalker at his peak, fighting with clarity of purpose and full connection to the light side of the Force. Palpatine, powerful as he is, finds himself genuinely challenged by an opponent who isn't holding anything back. During the battle, Anakin manages to contact the Jedi Temple, alerting them to the situation. His message is clear and urgent, identifying Palpatine as Darth Sidious and requesting immediate assistance. This communication proves crucial, as it gives the Jedi advance warning instead of leaving them to discover the truth in the midst of Order 66. The duel between Anakin and Palpatine is fierce and destructive, tearing apart the Chancellor's office as the two Force users battle with everything they have. Anakin's youth and physical prowess are matched against Palpatine's experience and cunning. The fight is more evenly matched than Palpatine anticipated, and for the first time in years, the Sith Lord faces the genuine possibility of defeat. As the battle rages, Jedi Masters begin arriving at the scene. Mace Windu, accompanied by Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, and Saesee Tiin, bursts into the office to find Anakin and Palpatine locked in combat. But instead of finding a corrupted Anakin standing over the dead Jedi, they see their fellow Jedi fighting alongside them against the true enemy. The arrival of multiple Jedi Masters tips the balance decisively against Palpatine. Faced with 5 skilled opponents, including the formidable Mace Windu and a fully committed Anakin Skywalker, Palpatine realizes that his position is untenable. However, the Sith Lord has one final card to play, one that could still salvage his plans even from this desperate situation. Palpatine triggers Order 66. The activation of the inhibitor chips in the clone troopers across the galaxy begins the systematic execution of Jedi everywhere. However, the circumstances are different in our timeline. The Jedi have received warning from Anakin's message, giving some of them precious seconds to prepare for the betrayal of their clone allies. More importantly, many clone units receive conflicting information. Their Jedi general's behavior doesn't match the profile of traitors that Order 66 is designed to address. Anakin's clones, in particular, find it impossible to reconcile the order to execute their general with the man they've served alongside for years. This creates hesitation and doubt that saves lives. Some clone commanders, particularly those with strong personal relationships with their Jedi, find themselves unable to execute the order immediately. This delay allows several Jedi to survive the initial wave of attacks and begin mounting a resistance. The systematic extinction of the Jedi Order that Palpatine had planned becomes a chaotic battle with uncertain outcomes. Back in the Chancellor's office, Palpatine uses the distraction of Order 66's activation to make a desperate escape attempt. Using his mastery of the dark side, he creates a massive force storm that devastates the surrounding area while providing cover for his retreat. The Jedi are forced to protect civilian areas from the destruction, allowing Palpatine to slip away temporarily. However, his escape is short-lived. Without Anakin as his apprentice and with the Jedi now aware of his identity, Palpatine finds himself isolated and hunted. The clone army's loyalty is divided, with many units refusing to follow orders from a revealed Sith Lord. The Senate, shocked by the revelations about their Chancellor, quickly moves to strip him of power and authorize his capture. The hunt for Palpatine becomes a galaxy-wide manhunt. Jedi survivors, loyal clone units, and Senate security forces work together to track down the fugitive Sith Lord. Palpatine's vast network of allies and secret bases provide him with some protection. But without the infrastructure of a galactic empire, his resources are limited. Meanwhile, the immediate crisis forces rapid changes in galactic government. With Palpatine exposed and fled, the Senate must quickly establish new leadership. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and other principled senators work to restore democratic governance while dealing with the chaos left in the wake of the failed Sith coup. The Jedi Order, though battered by the betrayal of the clones and the losses from Order 66, survives as an organization. The temple on Coruscant becomes a coordination center for the manhunt and a refuge for surviving Jedi. Master Yoda and the surviving council members work to rebuild their ranks while processing the traumatic revelation that they had been manipulated by a Sith Lord. For years, Anakin finds himself at the center of these galactic changes. His actions in exposing and fighting Palpatine make him a hero to both the Jedi and the broader galactic community. The Council, recognizing his crucial role in preventing the Sith takeover, finally grants him the rank of Master. More importantly, they begin to reconsider some of their more rigid policies, including those regarding attachment and marriage. The revelation of Anakin and Padmé's marriage, which Palpatine had threatened to expose, actually comes out during the post-crisis investigations. However, rather than punishment, Anakin receives understanding. The Council recognizes that his emotional connections, rather than making him vulnerable to the dark side, actually strengthened his commitment to the light when it mattered most. This leads to broader reforms within the Jedi Order. The strict prohibition on attachment is relaxed, replaced with teachings about healthy relationships and emotional balance. The Order begins to move away from the dogmatic approach that had characterized it during the later years of the Republic, embracing a more flexible and compassionate philosophy. Padmé, meanwhile, continues her pregnancy without the stress and fear that had characterized her final months in the original timeline. The political crisis keeps her busy as she works with other senators to establish the new government, but she's supported by Anakin's presence and love. Their relationship, no longer hidden, becomes a symbol of hope and normalcy in a galaxy recovering from near disaster. The search for Palpatine continues for months, but the former Chancellor proves elusive. Using his knowledge of Sith strongholds and ancient hideouts, he manages to stay ahead of his pursuers while plotting his return to power. However, without an apprentice and with his political network in ruins, his options are severely limited. During this time, Palpatine makes several attempts to turn other Force-sensitive individuals to the dark side. He reaches out to Dooku, but finds that his former apprentice's death during the Clone Wars has eliminated that option. He considers other candidates, including some of the surviving Jedi who might be susceptible to corruption, but his reduced circumstances make recruitment difficult. The birth of Luke and Leia occurs in this changed timeline under very different circumstances. Padmé delivers the twins in a medical facility on Coruscant, surrounded by the best care available and with Anakin present throughout the process. There are no complications, no life-threatening emergencies, and no tragic death scene. The twins are born healthy and strong, and Padmé recovers quickly from the delivery. Anakin experiences fatherhood as a moment of pure joy rather than devastating loss. The birth of his children represents hope for the future rather than the destruction of everything he held dear. This moment also proves to be emotionally transformative for Anakin in ways that mirror, but invert, his original transformation. Instead of being consumed by rage and despair, he's filled with an overwhelming sense of love and responsibility. The birth of Luke and Leia strengthens his connection to the light side of the Force and deepens his commitment to building a better galaxy for his children. The existence of the Skywalker twins in this timeline presents interesting questions about their Force sensitivity and training. With both parents alive and the Jedi Order intact, there's no need to hide the children or separate them. They grow up knowing both their parents and their Force heritage from an early age. Anakin, as a Jedi Master and father, takes an active role in his children's early Force training. However, he's careful not to pressure them or rush their development. The traumatic experiences of his own childhood have taught him the importance of letting children develop naturally, while providing them with love and stability. Luke and Leia show strong Force sensitivity from early ages, but their manifestations are different from what we might expect. Growing up in a stable, loving environment without the trauma and conflict that shaped their original timeline selves, they develop different aspects of their Force abilities. Luke shows particular talent for healing and empathy, while Leia demonstrates remarkable skills in telepathic communication and emotional sensing. The twins' existence also affects the broader galaxy in unexpected ways. As the children of two of the most prominent figures in galactic politics, they become symbols of the new era. Their very existence represents the triumph of love and hope over fear and hatred, embodying the ideals that the new government strives to achieve. As the twins grow, the manhunt for Palpatine continues. The former Emperor has established a hidden base in the unknown regions, gathering the remnants of his supporters and working to rebuild his power. However, without the infrastructure of the Empire and with most of his key allies either captured or killed, progress is slow. Palpatine's strategy shifts toward long-term planning. He recognizes that his dream of galactic domination may not be achievable in his lifetime, but he works to lay the groundwork for future Sith to continue his work. He begins recording his knowledge and techniques, creating holocrons that will preserve his teachings for future generations. The Sith Lord also works to corrupt other Force-sensitive individuals he encounters in the galaxy's outer reaches. His success is limited, but he manages to create a small cadre of dark side adepts who help him maintain his hidden stronghold. These followers lack the power and skill of true Sith Lords, but they provide him with the assistance he needs to survive and plan. Years pass in this alternate timeline, and the galaxy settles into a new normal. The Republic is reformed with stronger democratic institutions and better safeguards against the concentration of power that enabled Palpatine's rise. The Jedi Order, though smaller than before, has become more flexible and responsive to the needs of the galaxy's citizens. Anakin Skywalker, now a respected Jedi Master and father, serves on a reorganized Jedi Council. His experiences during the crisis have given him unique insights into the dangers of both political manipulation and emotional extremes. He becomes known for his wisdom in dealing with other Jedi struggling with attachment and emotional balance. The relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan has deepened into a true partnership of equals. The master-apprentice dynamic has evolved into one of mutual respect and collaboration. They often work together on missions that require both diplomatic finesse and combat prowess, their complementary skills making them one of the most effective teams in the Order. Padmé has transitioned from Senator to Chancellor of the Reformed Republic, elected on a platform of democratic renewal and transparent governance. Her marriage to Anakin, rather than being a scandal, has become a symbol of the new era's embrace of personal freedom and emotional authenticity. She brings both political acumen and moral clarity to her role, working to heal the divisions left by the Clone Wars. Luke and Leia, now young children, are being raised with full knowledge of their heritage and abilities. They attend regular school with other children while also receiving Force training from their father and other Jedi Masters. Their upbringing represents a new approach to Jedi education, one that emphasizes balance between normal childhood experiences and Force development. However, not everything in this alternate timeline is peaceful. Palpatine's presence in the unknown regions continues to cast a shadow over the galaxy. Intelligence reports suggest that he's building some kind of force, though the exact nature of his plans remains unclear. The threat of his return keeps security forces vigilant and reminds everyone that the victory over the Sith may not be permanent. There are also other challenges facing the Reformed Republic. The economic disruption caused by the Clone Wars and the sudden change in government creates ongoing difficulties. Some systems struggle with the transition from wartime to peacetime economies, and there are occasional uprisings by groups loyal to the old order or seeking to exploit the chaos for their own gain. The Jedi Order faces its own internal challenges as it adapts to its new role in the galaxy. Some traditionalist Jedi resist the changes in doctrine and practice, arguing that the relaxation of rules about attachment will weaken the Order. Others push for even more dramatic reforms, believing that the old ways are fundamentally flawed. Anakin often finds himself mediating these disputes, using his unique perspective as someone who has experienced both the dangers of unchecked emotion and the strength that comes from healthy relationships. His marriage to Padmé and his role as a father give him credibility with those advocating for change, while his proven strength in the Force and commitment to the light side reassure the traditionalists. As Luke and Leia approach adolescence, their Force abilities continue to develop in fascinating ways. Luke shows particular promise in the art of healing, able to mend injuries and even reverse some forms of disease through the Force. His compassionate nature and natural empathy make him particularly suited to this aspect of Force use, and he's already being considered for advanced training in the medical applications of Force power. Leia, meanwhile, demonstrates remarkable abilities in what might be called Force diplomacy. She can sense the emotional states and motivations of others with extraordinary precision, making her incredibly effective at resolving conflicts and building consensus. Her political instincts, inherited from her mother, are enhanced by her Force abilities in ways that make her a natural leader. The twins' relationship with each other is also unique in Jedi history. Their twin bond, strengthened by growing up together and sharing Force training, creates a connection that's deeper than typical sibling relationships. They can communicate telepathically, across vast distances, and seem to share sensory experiences in ways that puzzle even experienced Jedi masters. This development raises interesting questions about the nature of Force bonds and family connections. The Jedi Order, traditionally skeptical of such attachments, finds itself studying the twins' relationship as a potential model for understanding how emotional connections can enhance rather than diminish Force abilities. As the years progress, intelligence about Palpatine's activities becomes increasingly concerning. Reports suggest that he's not just hiding in the unknown regions, but actively building some kind of force or weapon. Reconnaissance missions reveal the construction of facilities that appear designed for military production, though the exact nature of what's being built remains unclear. These developments force the Republic and the Jedi to maintain a state of readiness for potential future conflict. Military forces are kept at higher levels than might otherwise be necessary, and Jedi are trained not just in peacekeeping, but in warfare. The hope is that preparation will deter any attempt by Palpatine to return, but the possibility of future conflict looms over the galaxy. The ongoing threat also affects how Luke and Leia are raised. While their parents are careful not to burden them with adult concerns, the twins are aware that their galaxy faces ongoing dangers. This knowledge shapes their development, instilling in them a sense of responsibility and commitment to protecting others that goes beyond typical childhood concerns. Anakin, in particular, struggles with how much to tell his children about the threats they face. He wants them to have normal childhoods, but he also recognizes that their Force sensitivity and family connections make them potential targets. He works to prepare them without frightening them, teaching them to be aware and cautious while maintaining their natural optimism and joy. The question of Palpatine's ultimate fate becomes a central concern for the Republic's leadership. Some advocate for more aggressive action to hunt down and eliminate the threat once and for all. Others argue for a defensive posture, focusing on strengthening the Republic's institutions and military capabilities to resist any future attack. Anakin often finds himself torn between these approaches. His natural inclination is toward action and confrontation, but his experiences have taught him the value of patience and careful planning. He recognizes that rushing into conflict with Palpatine could play into the Sith Lord's hands, but he's also aware that allowing the threat to grow unchecked could prove equally dangerous. The debate over how to handle Palpatine reflects broader questions about the nature of good and evil in the galaxy. Some philosophers and Jedi scholars argue that the Sith represent an inevitable aspect of the Force's dark side, one that can be suppressed but never permanently eliminated. Others believe that with sufficient vigilance and commitment to light side principles, the dark side's influence can be minimized to the point of irrelevance. These philosophical discussions have practical implications for how the Jedi Order trains its members and how the Republic structures its government. If evil is inevitable, then eternal vigilance becomes necessary. If it can be overcome, then the focus should be on creating conditions that prevent its emergence in the first place. Anakin's own experiences give him unique insights into these debates. Having come close to falling to the dark side in the original timeline but remaining in the light in this one, he understands how small changes in circumstances can have enormous consequences. This makes him both more optimistic about the possibility of overcoming evil and more aware of how easily good intentions can go astray. As Luke and Leia approach their teenage years, they begin to show interest in following different paths within the Force tradition. Luke is drawn to the healing arts and the more contemplative aspects of Jedi training, while Leia shows interest in the political and diplomatic applications of Force abilities. These different inclinations reflect their personalities and natural talents, but they also represent different aspects of their parents' legacies. The twins' divergent interests create new opportunities for the Jedi Order to explore different approaches to Force training. Luke's focus on healing leads to renewed study of the medical applications of Force power, while Leia's interest in diplomacy encourages the development of new techniques. for conflict resolution and negotiation. Their training also reveals new aspects of the Force that have been little studied in recent generations. The twins' ability to work together, combining their abilities in unprecedented ways, suggests that the Force may have collaborative aspects that traditional Jedi training has overlooked. This discovery leads to experimentation with team-based approaches to Force use that could revolutionize Jedi techniques. Meanwhile, reports from the unknown region suggest that Palpatine's project, whatever it is, may be nearing completion. Intelligence analysts debate the possible nature of his plans, considering everything from a new superweapon to an attempt to create artificial Force users. The uncertainty makes it difficult to prepare appropriate countermeasures, but it's clear that some kind of response will eventually be necessary. The mystery deepens when long-range reconnaissance missions begin disappearing in the unknown regions. Ships sent to investigate Palpatine's activities simply vanish without trace. Their final transmissions cut short by unknown interference. The few probe droids that return bring disturbing images of massive construction projects and what appear to be fleet formations unlike anything seen in the galaxy before. These developments coincide with troubling reports from across the galaxy's outer rim territories. Systems that had remained loyal to the Republic during the Clone Wars begin experiencing mysterious attacks by unknown forces. These aren't random pirate raids or civil unrest, but coordinated strikes that seem designed to test the Republic's response capabilities and military readiness. The attacks follow a pattern that military analysts find deeply concerning. They target communication relays, shipyards, and training facilities, systematically weakening the Republic's ability to project Force into the galaxy's outer reaches. More disturbing still, survivors report that their attackers fought with a fanaticism and coordination that suggests extensive training and indoctrination. Anakin finds himself increasingly involved in investigating these incidents. His reputation as the hero who exposed Palpatine makes him a natural choice for missions requiring both combat prowess and investigative skills. Each mission reveals new pieces of a puzzle that grows more ominous with every discovery. During one such investigation on the planet Jakku, Anakin uncovers evidence of massive excavation projects. Deep beneath the desert surface, ancient Sith artifacts and technology are being systematically extracted and transported off-world. The scale of the operation suggests that it's been ongoing for years, hidden beneath the planet's unremarkable exterior. The artifacts discovered on Jakku include holocrons, ancient texts, and most disturbing of all, what appear to be Sith alchemy laboratories. These facilities show signs of recent use, suggesting that someone has been experimenting with the dark arts of Sith creation and corruption. The implications are staggering, raising the possibility that Palpatine isn't just building conventional military forces, but attempting to create dark side warriors through artificial means. Luke and Leia, now teenagers, begin experiencing strange disturbances in the Force during this period. Their twin bond, always strong, becomes even more pronounced as they sense ripples of dark side energy emanating from the galaxy's edge. These sensations are unlike anything in their previous experience, carrying undertones of ancient evil and twisted purpose that disturb even experienced Jedi masters. The twins' unique sensitivity to these disturbances makes them valuable assets in understanding the nature of the threat. Their ability to perceive Force phenomena that escape other Jedi's notice provides crucial intelligence about Palpatine's activities. However, their involvement also places them in danger, as their Force signatures become increasingly visible to dark side practitioners across the galaxy. Recognizing this risk, Anakin and Padmé make the difficult decision to accelerate Luke and Leia's training. The twins, despite their youth, begin receiving advanced instruction in combat techniques, Force mastery, and the philosophical underpinnings of the light and dark sides. This intensive training is physically and emotionally demanding, but both children show remarkable aptitude and dedication. Luke's healing abilities continue to develop in extraordinary ways. He demonstrates the capacity to not just heal physical injuries, but to cleanse dark side corruption from living beings. This rare ability, which hasn't been seen in the Jedi Order for generations, makes him particularly valuable in treating victims of Sith alchemy and dark side experimentation. His success in reversing some forms of corruption gives hope that even Palpatine's most twisted creations might be redeemed rather than destroyed. Leia's diplomatic and leadership abilities evolve in equally remarkable directions. Her Force-enhanced empathy allows her to understand and influence the emotional states of entire groups, making her incredibly effective at maintaining morale and unity in the face of growing threats. She begins working directly with her mother on political strategy, providing insights that prove crucial in maintaining the coalition against Palpatine. The twins' relationship with each other deepens during this period of intensive training. Their Force bond evolves beyond simple telepathic communication to become something approaching a shared consciousness during moments of crisis. This unprecedented connection allows them to coordinate their abilities in ways that multiply their effectiveness beyond what either could achieve alone. As intelligence about Palpatine's plans becomes clearer, a disturbing picture emerges. The former Emperor hasn't simply been building a conventional military force. Instead, he's been creating what can only be described as a dark side army, combining advanced technology with Sith alchemy to produce warriors that are both technologically superior and deeply corrupt with dark side power. These revelations force a fundamental reassessment of the threat facing the galaxy. Previous plans for dealing with Palpatine had assumed they were facing a conventional enemy, albeit one led by a powerful Sith Lord. The reality proves far more complex and dangerous, requiring new strategies and unprecedented cooperation between military and Force-using assets. The Jedi Council, faced with this existential threat, makes decisions that would have been unthinkable under their previous rigid doctrine. They authorize the training of Jedi in techniques specifically designed to counter Sith alchemy and dark side corruption. More controversially, they begin developing new Force techniques that blur the traditional lines between light and dark, using controlled applications of aggressive Force. The Republic's response is hampered by the unprecedented nature of the threat. Traditional military tactics prove inadequate against enemies that can deflect blaster bolts with their bare hands and coordinate attacks through Force-based communication networks. Even veteran commanders find themselves struggling to adapt to warfare that combines conventional tactics with supernatural abilities. Anakin leads the first major counteroffensive against Palpatine's forces, taking a joint fleet of Republic ships and Jedi strike teams to liberate the Ryloth system. The battle that ensues becomes a preview of the larger conflict to come, pitting conventional military forces supported by light side Force users against dark side warriors backed by advanced Sith technology. The fighting on Ryloth is unlike anything seen in previous galactic conflicts. Space battles involve not just ships firing at each other, but Force users projecting their abilities across vast distances to influence the outcome of individual engagements. Ground combat sees Jedi and Sith engaging in lightsaber duels while armies clash around them. The outcome of the larger battle often determined by the results of these personal confrontations. Luke and Leia participate in the Ryloth campaign despite their parents' concerns about their safety. Their unique abilities prove crucial in countering Palpatine's most dangerous weapons. Luke's healing powers are essential in treating victims of Sith corruption, while Leia's empathic abilities help maintain unit cohesion in the face of dark side psychological attacks. The twins' first direct confrontation with Palpatine's dark side warriors is both a coming-of-age moment and a crucial test of their training. Fighting side by side, they demonstrate the potential of their combined abilities, using their Force bond to coordinate attacks and defenses in ways that confuse and overwhelm their enemies. Their success becomes a symbol of hope for the Republic's forces and proof that the next generation of Jedi can meet even the most extreme threats. The victory at Ryloth, while significant, also reveals the true scope of the challenge facing the galaxy. Palpatine's forces are revealed to be not just numerous but incredibly diverse, including everything from enhanced stormtroopers to artificial Force users created through Sith alchemy. The technological base supporting these forces suggests resources and capabilities far beyond what intelligence had previously estimated. More disturbing still, interrogation of captured enemies reveals that many of them genuinely believe in Palpatine's vision of galactic order. These aren't just brainwashed soldiers following orders, but true believers who see the Sith as bringing necessary order to a chaotic galaxy. This ideological commitment makes them far more dangerous than conventional enemies, as they're willing to sacrifice everything for their cause. The intelligence gathered from the Ryloth campaign forces a complete revision of strategic planning. It becomes clear that the conflict with Palpatine won't be resolved through a single decisive battle or even a short campaign. Instead, the galaxy faces what could be a generational struggle between fundamentally different visions of civilization and the Force's role in galactic affairs. Padmé, working with the Senate's War Council, begins mobilizing resources for an extended conflict. The political challenge is enormous, as many systems that had supported the Republic during the Clone Wars are reluctant to commit to another large-scale military effort. The memories of that conflict's devastation are still fresh, and there's widespread desire to avoid repeating those mistakes. However, the unique nature of Palpatine's threat gradually overcomes this resistance. As reports spread of worlds corrupted by dark side influence and populations turned into fanatical servants of the Sith, even the most pacifist systems recognize that accommodation with this enemy is impossible. The choice becomes not whether to fight, but whether to fight with hope of victory, or simply to delay inevitable defeat. The mobilization effort reveals both the Republic's strengths and its weaknesses. The democratic system that makes it morally superior to Palpatine's authoritarian vision also makes it slower to respond to threats and more vulnerable to division and doubt. However, these same democratic values also generate a depth of commitment and resilience that purely authoritarian systems cannot match. Anakin finds himself taking on increasing leadership responsibilities as the conflict escalates. His role evolves from simply being a powerful Jedi Knight to becoming a strategic commander responsible for coordinating military and force-using assets across multiple theaters of operation. This expansion of responsibility tests his abilities in new ways, requiring him to balance his natural inclination toward direct action with the patience and careful planning that large-scale operations demand. The strategic situation becomes even more complex when intelligence reveals that Palpatine hasn't limited his activities to the unknown regions. His agents have been infiltrating Republic territory for years, establishing hidden bases and recruiting networks throughout the galaxy. This revelation transforms what had seemed like an external threat into a multi-front conflict with enemies, potentially embedded in every system. The discovery of these hidden networks creates a crisis of trust within the Republic. Citizens begin viewing their neighbors with suspicion, wondering who might be secretly working for Palpatine. This paranoia threatens to undermine the social cohesion that is one of the Republic's greatest strengths, playing directly into the Sith strategy of spreading fear and division. Luke and Leia's abilities become increasingly important in addressing this internal threat. Luke's power to detect and cleanse dark side corruption proves essential in identifying Palpatine's agents, while Leia's empathic abilities help distinguish between genuine converts to the Sith cause and those who have been coerced or deceived. Their work helps maintain social stability while gradually rooting out the hidden networks. The twins' activities during this period also accelerate their development as Force users and leaders. Working directly with Republic intelligence services and military commanders, they gain experience in the practical applications of their abilities that goes far beyond traditional Jedi training. This real-world experience shapes their understanding of the Force in ways that will influence their approach to its use for the rest of their lives. As the conflict enters its second year, patterns begin to emerge in Palpatine's strategy. His forces focus particularly on systems with strong Force traditions or significant Force-sensitive populations. These attacks aren't just military conquests, but systematic efforts to corrupt or destroy potential opposition to Sith dominance. Ancient Jedi temples are targeted for destruction, while Force-sensitive individuals are either recruited to the Sith cause or eliminated. This pattern reveals Palpatine's long-term thinking. He's not just seeking to win the current war, but to ensure that future resistance to Sith rule will be impossible. By eliminating the Jedi Order's historical foundations and corrupting the galaxy's Force-sensitive population, he aims to create a future where the dark side's dominance is absolute and permanent. The Republic's response to this strategy involves efforts to preserve Jedi history and protect Force-sensitive individuals throughout the galaxy. Ancient temples and libraries are evacuated, with their contents transported to secure locations where they can be preserved for future generations. Force-sensitive children and their families are offered sanctuary in Republic territory, though many choose to stay and fight rather than abandon their homes. These preservation efforts create new opportunities for Luke and Leia to connect with their heritage. Working with Jedi archaeologists and historians, they help catalog and study artifacts and texts that reveal aspects of Force use that have been forgotten for generations. This work deepens their understanding of their abilities while also preparing them for leadership roles in whatever Jedi Order emerges from the current conflict. The twins' archaeological work leads to several significant discoveries that impact the broader war effort. Ancient texts reveal Force techniques that prove effective against Sith alchemy, while forgotten temples contain artifacts that can enhance the abilities of light side Force users. These discoveries provide practical advantages in the ongoing conflict while also connecting the current struggle to the broader historical contest between light and dark. One of the most significant discoveries occurs on the planet Tython, birthplace of the Jedi Order. Deep beneath the ancient temple complexes, Luke and Leia uncover a cache of texts and artifacts dating back to the earliest days of Force use in the galaxy. These materials reveal that the conflict between light and dark is even older and more fundamental than previously understood. But they also suggest that the current crisis may represent a crucial turning point in this ancient struggle. The Tython discoveries include references to a concept called the balance point, a theoretical state where the Force's light and dark aspects exist in perfect equilibrium. According to these ancient texts, achieving this balance would end the cyclical conflicts between Jedi and Sith that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. However, the process of achieving balance is described in terms that suggest enormous risk and sacrifice. These revelations force the Jedi Council to reconsider their fundamental understanding of the Force and their role in galactic affairs. If the ancient texts are correct, the current conflict with Palpatine may be more than just another war between good and evil. It might be the final confrontation that determines whether the galaxy moves toward permanent balance or falls into eternal darkness. Anakin finds these discoveries particularly significant given his prophesied role as the Chosen One who would bring balance to the Force. In the original timeline, this prophecy was fulfilled through his fall to the dark side and eventual redemption, a process that destroyed both the Jedi and Sith orders. In our alternate timeline, the path to balance may be entirely different, requiring not destruction but transformation of the Force's role in galactic civilization. The strategic implications of the Tython discoveries become apparent when combined with ongoing intelligence about Palpatine's ultimate goals. The Sith Lord isn't just seeking to rule the galaxy. He's attempting to fundamentally alter the Force itself, using Sith alchemy and dark side rituals to permanently tip the cosmic balance toward darkness. If successful, this would make his rule not just politically but metaphysically unassailable. This revelation transforms the nature of the conflict, from a war between competing governments to a struggle for the soul of the galaxy itself. The stakes couldn't be higher, as defeat would mean not just political subjugation but the permanent corruption of the Force and everything it touches. Victory, on the other hand, might offer the opportunity to achieve the balance that has eluded the galaxy for millennia. The Republic's military strategy evolves to address these metaphysical dimensions of the conflict. Traditional objectives like capturing territory and destroying enemy forces remain important, but they're supplemented by missions designed to disrupt Palpatine's Force-based rituals and protect sites of particular significance to the galaxy's spiritual balance. Luke and Leia's roles in this evolved strategy are crucial. Their unique connection to the Force and each other makes them particularly effective at sensing and countering Palpatine's metaphysical manipulations. They work with teams of Jedi scholars and Republic scientists to develop new techniques for detecting and disrupting dark side rituals, often serving as the focal points for complex Force-based operations. The twins' involvement in these esoteric aspects of the war accelerates their development in unexpected directions. Luke's healing abilities evolve to include the capacity to repair damage to the Force itself, mending tears in the cosmic fabric created by Sith alchemy. Leia's empathic powers expand to encompass not just living beings, but the Force's own emotional resonances, allowing her to sense the galaxy's spiritual health. As the conflict approaches its climax, both sides begin marshaling their forces for what all recognize will be the decisive confrontation. Palpatine's Final Order fleet finally emerges from the unknown regions, revealing itself to be even larger and more technologically advanced than intelligence had suggested. The ships themselves appear to be infused with dark side energy, making them not just weapons of war but instruments of cosmic corruption. The Republic's response involves not just military forces, but every available Force user, regardless of their formal affiliation with the Jedi Order. Ancient agreements with various Force-using traditions are activated, bringing together Jedi, former Sith who have turned to the light, neutral Force users, and even some groups that practice entirely different approaches to cosmic power. This diverse coalition presents both opportunities and challenges. The variety of Force traditions brings different techniques and perspectives that prove valuable in countering Palpatine's varied attacks. However, coordinating such a diverse group requires unprecedented cooperation and understanding between traditionally separate or even hostile groups. Anakin finds himself at the center of these coalition-building efforts. His experience with both the temptation of darkness and the power of redemption makes him uniquely suited to work with Force users from diverse backgrounds. His leadership helps forge a unity of purpose that transcends traditional boundaries and creates something genuinely new in galactic history. The final campaign begins with simultaneous operations across multiple star systems as both sides seek to gain strategic advantage before the ultimate confrontation. Palpatine's forces attack key Republic strongholds while also conducting rituals designed to weaken the Force's light side aspects. The Republic responds with efforts to protect civilian populations while disrupting the Sith Lord's metaphysical manipulations. The battles during this final phase are unlike anything in galactic history. Space combat involves not just conventional weapons, but massive Force-based attacks that can destroy entire fleets. Ground battles see armies supported by Force users whose abilities can reshape the very landscape of battlefields. The line between military conflict and cosmic struggle becomes increasingly blurred. Luke and Leia's role in these battles evolves from tactical assets to strategic focal points. Their combined abilities allow them to serve as conduits for the collective power of the light side coalition, channeling the Force energies of dozens of allied Force users into coordinated attacks against Palpatine's greatest weapons. This unprecedented cooperation creates possibilities that neither the traditional Jedi Order nor individual Force users could achieve alone. The climactic confrontation finally arrives when Palpatine himself emerges from hiding to lead his forces in a direct assault on Coruscant. The Sith Lord, transformed by years of dark side corruption and Sith alchemy experiments, has become something beyond a mere Force user. He represents the dark side's incarnate will, a being of pure malevolent purpose seeking to remake the galaxy in his image. The battle for Coruscant becomes the focus of the entire galaxy's attention. Every available ship and Force user converges on the Republic capital as the ultimate struggle between light and dark unfolds. The fighting encompasses everything from individual lightsaber duels to fleet actions involving thousands of ships, with the fate of galactic civilization hanging in the balance. Anakin's final confrontation with his former mentor represents the culmination of both their character arcs. Palpatine, twisted beyond recognition by his dark side corruption, embodies everything that Anakin might have become had fear driven his choices. Anakin, supported by his family's love and the light side coalition's combined strength, represents the alternative path of growth and redemption. The duel between them transcends physical combat to become a battle of philosophies and ways of life. Each lightsaber strike carries the weight of their competing visions for the galaxy's future. Palpatine fights with the desperate fury of someone who has sacrificed everything for power, while Anakin draws strength from his connections to others and his commitment to their shared future. The battle's outcome is determined not by superior fighting skill or Force power, but by the fundamental difference in the sources of each combatant's strength. Palpatine's power comes from fear, anger, and the desire to dominate, sources that ultimately consume and weaken those who rely on them. Anakin's strength comes from love, hope, and the desire to protect, sources that grow stronger when shared with others. The defeat of Palpatine doesn't end with his death, but with his transformation. In a moment that parallels but inverts his original destiny, Anakin uses his connection to the Force and his understanding of both light and dark to offer his former mentor a chance at redemption. The choice between continued corruption and the possibility of balance becomes Palpatine's final decision. The resolution of this confrontation establishes the foundation for a new era in galactic history. The victory of the light side coalition doesn't simply restore the previous status quo, but creates opportunities for genuine transformation of the galaxy's political and spiritual landscape. The cooperation between different Force traditions that proved essential to victory becomes the basis for new approaches to understanding and using cosmic power. Luke and Leia emerge from the conflict as the leaders of a new generation that will shape the galaxy's future. Their experiences during the war have prepared them for roles that transcend traditional boundaries between political and spiritual leadership. They embody the possibility of achieving the balance that has eluded the galaxy for millennia, not through the destruction of opposing forces, but through their harmonious integration. The aftermath of the conflict sees the establishment of new institutions designed to prevent the rise of another Palpatine while preserving the diversity and freedom that make the Republic worth defending. The lessons learned during the war about the dangers of both authoritarian control and naive pacifism inform these new structures, creating a more resilient and adaptive form of democratic governance. The Jedi Order, transformed by its experiences during the conflict, evolves into something that combines the wisdom of ancient traditions with the flexibility needed to address new challenges. The rigid doctrines that once limited Jedi effectiveness are replaced by more nuanced understandings of attachment, emotion, and the relationship between personal fulfillment and cosmic responsibility. Most importantly, the galaxy emerges from this conflict with a deeper understanding of the Force itself and its role in galactic civilization. The ancient dream of balance between light and dark begins to seem achievable, not through the dominance of either side, but through their conscious integration into a greater harmony that serves all life. The story of this alternate timeline ultimately demonstrates that the future is not fixed, that prophecies can be fulfilled in unexpected ways, and that the choices made by individuals can reshape the destiny of entire galaxies. In a universe where fear was replaced by hope from the very beginning, the possibilities for growth, redemption, and genuine balance prove to be limitless. As we reach the end of this exploration, we see that the simple absence of Anakin's prophetic nightmares didn't just prevent his fall to the dark side, it enabled the emergence of an entirely different kind of galaxy, one where the Force serves not as a source of division and conflict, but as a foundation for unity and growth. One where the Skywalker legacy becomes a symbol not of tragedy and redemption, but of hope fulfilled and balance achieved. This alternate timeline reminds us that in the Star Wars universe, as in our own lives, the most profound changes often begin with the smallest choices. The decision to trust rather than fear, to hope rather than despair, to connect rather than isolate, can reshape not just individual destinies, but the fate of entire civilizations. In a galaxy far, far away, and perhaps in our own world as well, love truly is more powerful than hate, and hope more enduring than fear.